Three concepts about fidelity, mixing, and the expensive sound that I think are kind of interesting. Number one, the high-end sounds, the crispness, the brilliance, and all that stuff, that can be coming from this idea of the ear the ear is hearing a simulation of pink noise and white noise, but except it's more dynamic and it fluctuates because it's not actually pink noise or white noise necessarily, but the excitation process layers over time through multiple instruments. Another thing I wanted to mention is that the lower end high fidelity tone that you might hear, the so-called pseudoacoustic, psychoacoustic warmth and all these things, this could be coming from speaker simulation, so you don't have to necessarily capture this high frequency, but instead you're capturing sort of a chamber, a resonance chamber through the modeling of speakers or the recording of sounds through speakers, and then you're encapsulating a very specific sonic fingerprint from recording that speaker or using speaker modeling. Third thing I want to mention is resonances and removing them in recordings is another key to understanding and producing the balance of the mix, and that will be more translatable, and also, of course, a better fidelity. Because utilizing these kinds of tools and these kinds of secret recipes, you're going to add a little bit of resonance, so you're also going to need to carve out some of that resonance potentially. Another thing I'll mention, the last thing, is there's a tool called StereoTool that gives an example of the kind of additional sweetening that can be utilized by radio stations that's different than the sweetening tools that you have in your DAWs. It's one more layer, and the way that the tones are addressed and the way that the levels and volumes are addressed is a totally different process because it has to do more with smoothing out the sounds over time, and that includes frequency along with volume. So there's three things to think about, but I really wanted to get at the idea that this high fidelity tone, aside from coming from very expensive, mixing desks and all this stuff, it can be just a simulation of the pink noise in application to the production process. So you're turning all of your tones in your mix to sort of reach that range of the pink noise and the white noise. And the second one was to utilize speaker modeling for the low end stuff, because you're going to get great warmth through the idea of recording or modeling after these expensive sound systems. So it sounds like a recording on top of a recording, which is a really cool sound. So anyways, those are some thoughts on fidelity, mixing, and the secret ways and pathways to the so-called expensive sound in audio recordings in the modern world.